Welcome back. All right, so rounding out today's previews, the Montreal Canadiens. So Montreal, I talked about San Jose earlier today. San Jose clearly in a rebuild. Montreal in a rebuild as well. They're further along. Montreal stockpiling draft picks when they need to. Some really good young players part of this franchise, and still some more to come. And honestly, Kent Hughes gets a lot of credit for the positivity amongst the Montreal fan base, not always known as the most patient when it comes to building a champion. So this past season, they finished 31, 45, and 6, which was good for 28th overall. An improvement over being last year. Last year, that was a rough one. So they did improve. I think they can improve at about the same rate this year, which does not take them into a playoff hunt necessarily. But it means that, some more closer games, some more victories, and maybe a handful more points. Their goals scored per game, 2.77, predictably low, especially when Caulfield got hurt right around the middle of the season. That really hurt their offense. Their goals against per game, it's predictably high at 3.72. As these young defensemen learn the game and hopefully are able to stay healthy, because one thing that hit Montreal was the injury bug. And when you have a team that's already likely not a playoff team, and then you deal with all these major injuries over and over and over again, it's really difficult to recover from that. Their power play and penalty kill, also this being a predictable part of things, poor numbers. 16.1% on the power play, 72.7% on the penalty kill. So you add those two numbers together, that's 88.8. I mean, it's nice to see all those eights together, but at the same time, you want to see those numbers get closer to the 100 mark put together. So looking to improve the power play, the penalty kill, the scoring, the defense, the record, basically everything Montreal's looking to improve. But again, the fact that the fans seem to be patient, understanding the rebuild process that's underway, I think that's great for them. So the last time they made the playoffs was 2021. That was that run to the Stanley Cup final. An unexpected run, but it was great to watch. And since then, it has been a rebuild. So they last won the Stanley Cup in 1993. That is the most recent that any Canadian teams won a Stanley Cup. And there are many, myself, I'll throw myself in there, thinking maybe Montreal would be the next team to win the Stanley Cup. Maybe they have to break this curse of Canadian teams themselves, and then maybe we'll see others get through as well. But for Montreal, yeah, that Stanley Cup obviously being the ultimate end goal. They're not there yet, and they're likely not going to be there for at least a few more years. So cap space with Carey Price on LTIR, $6,722,084. I don't think they're going to rush to spend that, and I think they're still trying to shed a player here and there. We'll talk about that when we get to the additions and the exits part, which gets kind of weird. But yeah, Carey Price being an LTIR, I don't think Price is going to play this year. He did sell his house in Montreal. So there's a lot of signs pointing to Carey Price basically settling out and likely not going to play again. And he's not going to retire because then he's sacrificing that money that he's still owed. And it's through injury that he's not playing. So there's no reason he shouldn't get paid the money he's owed. Your top five scorers on this team: Nick Suzuki, 82 games, 26 goals, 40 assists, 66 points. If Caulfield had played with him all year, his points totals probably would have been closer to 75, I would think. But at any rate, Suzuki's a very good two-way forward. Yes, he is. I like him. I like his contract, and there's that. Kirby Dach, 58 games played, 14 goals, 24 assists, 38 points. It's a shame Dach got hurt when he did, because he was in the midst of quite the comeback season after being traded by a Chicago team that bewilderingly decided it was time to trade him. So I do think that Dach's capable of producing 55, maybe 60 points, and Caulfield being healthy would go a long way to helping them too. Played 46 games this past season, 26 goals, 10 assists for 36 points. So the overall numbers for Caulfield, very good, and they should be very good this year as well. A 40 to 50 goal scorer, those are important, right? Hoffman, who is now off the team, 67 games, 14 goals, 20 assists, 34 points. And Hoffman's now off to San Jose as part of the plan for Montreal here to get themselves a little more cap wiggle room down the road. Matheson, 48 games, 8 goals, 26 assists, 34 points. Very likely the linchpin on the blue line for them. We'll see if he spends the whole season in Montreal or not. The goaltending side of things, Montembeault, 40 games played, 16, 19, and 3 record, 901 save percentage, and the word has been that Montembeault is the one that they can see themselves growing with as the team gets better. They want to keep Montembeault. Allen might be in his final season with Montreal. 42 games, 15, 24, and 3 record, 891 save percentage. I think he can get his numbers up this year. I talked about that in a video a few weeks back. I do think Jake Allen can get better. Caden Primo, 3 games, 2 losses, 852 save percentage. I don't know if Primo's going to be the future starter, but I know Montreal's doing everything they can to get him there. So we'll see if that's going to be the case or if they have to look elsewhere. So when you look at hits, Michael Pezzetta, he hits a lot. 239 hits for Pezzetta. Now, whether or not he takes a regular shift this year, we'll see as the lineup has changed. Savard leading in block shots with 176. David Savard kind of forgotten as well. I think it's easy with this Montreal team, with the attention being on the kids and being on the draft picks, for some of these veterans to kind of get that reaction of, right, I forgot he was there. And for me, that's kind of the case when I see David Savard's name at times. Posts, not a lot of posts hit by Montreal players, but Anderson and Matheson amongst returning players lead the way with 5. So again, not a ton of posts being hit, but Montreal hoping that they won't hit a ton of posts this year either, just more of the net and get that 2.77 goals for up. Next one, I put Reinbacher as the next one. They drafted him 5th overall. They have faith in him as a defenseman, and he does project to be a very good defenseman in the NHL, likely a top 2, and you need that. And so while they do have a lot of good young defensemen already, Reinbacher, I think, has a higher ceiling than a lot of the young guys in their system. Fantasy sleeper, I went with Slafkovsky, which seems odd because he was a number 1 draft pick last year, but Slafkovsky, I really do think that there's still something there. Did he come up too soon? Maybe, but if he can get off to a good start, could be a very good year for him. And I've kind of got my fingers crossed that that happens for him. The MVP, it's likely going to come down to Caulfield and the goal scoring. So I don't see an MVP in the net or on the blue line necessarily, but I do think if Caulfield can stay healthy and produce goals at the same rate he did this past season, he is going to be their most valuable player. And the guy selling tickets. Pretty easy to sell tickets when you've got Cole Caulfield as an exciting young player. And of course, selling tickets in Montreal has been generally pretty easy over the years. So the schedule helps them out of the gate. In October, 6 out of their 9 games in October are at home. So if they can assert themselves at home, which is no guarantee right now with this roster and all, maybe they stay in the hunt a little bit longer than expected, right? So first or second place, when we get into the channel vote, only 2% felt that Montreal will be first or second. I'm guessing those are Habs fans and people that just don't like polls. 6% felt the team would be third or fourth. I love the enthusiasm. 31% believe they can finish 5th or 6th, and 62%, so more than half the channel, felt 7th or 8th was the right spot for the Montreal Canadiens. So we'll see how that turns out and whether or not Montreal stays at the bottom or if they move their way up. It can be just as hard to predict who's going to finish at the bottom of the standings as it is at the top. So yeah, there's a lot of question marks with the Montreal Canadiens as to how good they might be. And the exits and additions give us somewhat of an image, too, of what Kent Hughes is doing here. So the exits, Edmondson is gone via trade. Drouin leaves as a free agent. Gurianov gone as well. They didn't give him a qualifying offer, and he goes elsewhere. Tierney gone as a free agent. There's word that Paul Byron may be retiring. Of course, he's dealt with injury for years now. It would make some sense if he did retire. Belzile leaves. I'm a bit surprised they didn't find a way to keep Belzile. I think he's a useful depth player. And Petrie. So Petrie was acquired by the team and then leaves the team. So I kind of felt like, well, I kind of have to have Petrie on the board because they did get Lindstrom for Petrie, but he didn't actually play for Montreal this time around. So it's kind of weird. The additions, Newhook. And a lot of Montreal's hopes for improvement this year could ride on players like Newhook, who has had some opportunity in Colorado prior to this to succeed, but he's going to get all the ice time he would want in Montreal. He'll get more ice time and opportunity in Montreal, and we'll see whether or not he seizes that opportunity. Bowden has come in as depth on the blue line. Same with Keeper. Keeper coming out of a couple of seasons in the Vancouver organization. Lindstrom, as mentioned, brought in for Petrie. Lindstrom, you're just getting pure defense. There is an offense there, but you're getting pure defense. And DeSmith, and I have right next to DeSmith for now. There are rumors out there that Casey DeSmith is being traded. Now, I was trying to kind of narrow those down, and it kind of felt like what I was looking at was one source was claiming the other source, and when I went to that source, I'm like, but you guys are citing this source and this, and you guys are, okay, so I don't know if there's any actual fire. There's a lot of smoke, but odds are DeSmith's probably on his way out, and so a lot of the websites that like to talk about rumors and all this will want to jump on, well, the most logical spot would be, and put up those teams for DeSmith and say, well, logically, these teams could be looking for a backup. I honestly wouldn't mind if Vancouver picked him up, because with Demko, while I like Silovs, I think DeSmith would be a better backup. Give Silovs another year in the AHL. But anyways, that's just my vote as a Canuck fan. And again, understanding that Smith's coming off of a not great overall season with Pittsburgh. He did have some good runs in there, but overall his numbers ended up being kind of down. So it definitely looks like both Petrie and DeSmith will be Montreal Canadiens very briefly. No jersey retirement for Casey DeSmith, because he may not play a game unless they pivot. Maybe they don't find much of a market there and they end up moving Allen. But I don't think that happens either. But we'll have to see, right? So they had a 13-point improvement this year to 68 from 55 the year before. That 55-point season was an unmitigated disaster, which makes this season look better by comparison. The last time that this team missed 3 Stanley Cup playoffs in a row was between 1999 and 2001, and Habs fans weren't happy during that era. And that was the first time they'd missed 3 in a row since 1920 to 1922. This is a team that has never missed the playoffs 4 years in a row, and they seem to be trending in that direction. So we are in completely unexplored new territory for Montreal fans. They've never had to go through an actual rebuild process that takes this many years, potentially, as this one can. But again, they all seem to have bought in, and that's the key. It's not just deciding you're going to do the rebuild. Have the fans along for the ride. Have them understand what you're doing. And I think fans are pretty understanding if they see what the plan is, and we kind of see what the plan is in Montreal. So they have missed the playoffs 5 times in the last 8 years. They've been a very up and down team, and now it's basically the down and trying to slowly build up, which I think is better for the team's long-term picture than the up and down seasons they were having prior. This is the second full season for Marty St. Louis. St. Louis is a very good coach. I think he's well liked. I do think that there needs to be a little more systems in place. So when he took over, he kind of said, nope, just go out there and have fun, which is a great message, and players seem to enjoy it. But yeah, going forward, you do need to get a little bit more of a system in place and work on improving your special teams and working on some of the defensive issues your younger defensemen are going to have. This is also Kent Hughes. As GM, it's his vision now for the team, and he's drawing a lot of praise for the moves he's making, and even at the draft. So while there were some that kind of looked at the Reinbacher draft pick and kind of scratched their heads and felt maybe Montreal was leaving a better player on the table, and that could still be the case, but Reinbacher fills a need in the organization. There are some good young forwards already with the team. Maybe they decided, we could get this young forward, but he may not be ready for a couple years, and at that point, Reinbacher we think will be better, and we'll see, right? But one interesting thing is with Carey Price, it would appear that he's going to miss this season and that he's hanging up his skates. April 29th of 2022 was his last game. And so at this point, it looks like that could very well be the last game of his career. I have my fingers crossed that it's not going to be. When you look at the moves Montreal made this offseason, they are definitely of the mind that Price isn't going to be back. And when I see Carey Price going up to announce draft picks, it just seems like Carey Price will have a very prominent role with Montreal going forward. And once his contract's officially done, he'll probably have a management role, but his on-ice play is likely done. But we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. How bad do you expect them to be? Do you agree with the 62% that say 7th or lower? Are you more in the 31% that say 5th or 6th? Or do you think the 8% that have them 4th or higher, they've got the right idea? Root for your team. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.